Okay, welcome to the Metapod, a Pokemon TCG podcast that oh god, I'm so tired.
Oh, you almost had it there.
I'm like looking at it, it's still on my wall, and I still can't get it right. My name is Jake. I've got Sean here, the co-host with me here on this wonderful podcast, episode 4. This one's coming out on time. We got a lot of stuff today. There have been a lot of results in a lot of different places. There were some invitationals, there were some national championships, there were some sub tournaments as well. There's a whole bunch of different things to dive into. And then also the Players Cup results came out. Top 256 from each region was announced. So Sean, first of all, tell me your favorite color and how your day has been today.
Oh my favorite color is a mix between blue and yellow. Not actually mixed together, but like that color.
Right, I was gonna say, like, is your favorite color green?
Yes.
Like,
no, I like blue and yellow on their own next to each other. That's what I would say. And my day's been good. My day has been good.
I would say that yellow and blue next to each other are green, but that's just me. Anyways,
it's yellow and blue on top of each other. Oh my gosh! All right,
that's two colors then, Sean. That's 2 strikes for you. 3 strikes, and then we'll have to pick some other co-hosts.
That's right. Okay, I got one
Sean.
more.
Anyways, sweet. So let's just kick off talking about the current results that have happened through what is everywhere aside from Japan in terms of the meta right now, because that is what is going on right now. That's probably what people are. Well, I don't even know if I would argue if people are most interested in it. But it is what is happening right now. It's what most people can relate to. So the Pokédex Online Series Invitational happened. I believe there were 32 people that qualified based on the different Pokédex Invitationals. You had to meet the initial 250 Pokédex points and to be awarded the round 1 bye win as well. The tournament ran with 5 Swiss rounds, followed by a top 8 cut. I think there were originally 32 players, but one had to drop out at the last second. But there's not necessarily too much that we didn't expect, I would say. Sean, there's only like one real like whoa thing that happened in there.
Oh, I'm trying to look for it now.
You know what? I'll hit you with the whoa, and then I'll whip over and nay to the number 2 spot by David Hendrickson. Went 4-1 overall, getting second place with Obstagoon, which I thought was actually pretty surprising in my opinion. I know that Goons has been played a bit lately ever since Trainership and Grant Manley were playing it a lot during the Limitless qualifiers. It is back once again. The Rosa engine kind of moving around with Obstagoon. I tried to play this deck, and I feel like every time I try to play it, I just absolutely suck. I don't know how you feel about it.
The rare candies.
Yeah, it's either I've got all the Obstagoons in my hand and I got to research, or I've got all the rare candies and I got a Marnie. Like, it's either one of those two scenarios.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel like Goons. I have no idea how anybody does well. I mean, look, if you only have to play 5 games, right? I guess you can do well with Obstagoon and you get lucky or you don't. It does really well. I will say this. It does great against a lot of the meta, except for Dragapult. And maybe it does okay.
I don't even know
Dragapult.
if you would say it doesn't even. I think it's pretty fair against Dragapult because you're hitting for that weakness.
Yeah,
it's the only thing that I really just like two shots things in terms of the big basics.
So like, and I don't think very many lists are running Fion right now. People are maybe running 2 bosses orders, but like, so there's not very much ability to gust around it. So I do think that helps it right now, right? Like before, when it was prevalent in Sword and Shield meta, you had ADPZ, but when I played ADPZ, in that actual format in real tournaments, I was like 6 or 7-0 in tournaments against Goons with ADPZ because I had Fion and 4 custom catchers. And I was able to get around it with that, but nobody runs that kind of setup anymore. So,
I mean, people have cut the Fion, people have cut the catcher or the Pokemon,
the
custom catchers at least.
Yeah.
Nobody's playing Pokemon catchers really. I think there's like some older ADP lists that still play Pokemon catchers, and then people run Great Catcher. It's a one of usually. But that doesn't do anything for the Obstagoon. That would just be if you still had Yveltal out, if you were able to do the Doom Count GX.
Yep.
But I think it was actually like a pretty decent call, in all honesty, because you look at the different decks, like what actually was played. Lucario Melmetal, Pikachu Zekrom, Blacephalon, Arceus Dialga-Palkia. There were Dragapults, which I personally think is like a pretty fair matchup.
Yeah.
I think it's at least 50-50. I haven't really tested the matchup. I really haven't played like either decks. I have all the cards for them. I just like don't play them too much.
Well, I can tell you that it's about 50-50, right? Because you're right. It is hitting for weakness, so that helps it. And it's not like Dragapult can even one-shot a Goon. Because like, if you don't get a few damage counters onto a Goon, it has 160 HP and you're not hitting it for enough damage. So
yeah, exactly. And then Arceus Dialga-Palkia, we talked about that last week. Yeah, because it was what tournament was that where it placed like top? Oh no, that was actually the PokéX invite. No. Yeah, the PokéX invite is what I'm referring to, where in the top 4, there were 2 Arceus Dialga-Palkia Zacians, and I've been telling you guys that this deck was not bad, and it showed up as well. There was one control list there were 2 control lists that placed 12th and 11th, both Cincino control. There's another Obstagoon at 16th, but like there's literally like nothing besides Dragapult that played evolutions.
Oh, yeah, no. I think this is definitely a last gasp, if you will, for Galarian Obstagoon, like the current one, though, because, I don't know, like once Darkness Ablaze comes out, Eternalist is a great option, and you're not hitting that for weakness. And then, like, Centiskorch and even more are going to be coming out, and I just think that Goons is dead after this. I'm sorry, like, I thought Goons was dead now because of Dragapult, but I guess not, because like none of the other VMAXs are clearly relevant yet.
I think that's just going to be the thing, right? Because we're in this big basic meta, so Obstagoon was great. It's a really good rogue deck, really cool. But now we're starting to move. I don't know if we've talked about this on the pod, but in my opinion, we're starting to move into a much slower meta in like Darkness Ablaze and rotation and stuff, to where it's not big basics anymore. It's giant stage 1 essentially.
And then I think what helps that too is Blacephalon. Baby Blounds is losing Fiery Flint. And because Baby Blounds is losing that specific card, it's really hard, I think, for Baby Blounds to, by turn 2, get 7 energy in hand to blow up one of those, massive Pokemon.
You doubt the drawing the stones ability of a Blacephalon player.
No, that's my point. You can't draw the stones.
No, I agree. It's much harder without Fiery Flints.
Yeah.
It's much harder without Fiery Flints.
So I think because of that, like, I think that honestly is what has partially stopped some of the other VMAXs from being relevant, is because, like Toxtricity and some of these others, they're also big, right? But like, you have Baby Blounds that can still blow them up, but at least with Dragapult, you can prize trade a little bit better, because you can, take out a Baby Blounds and then also take out a Jirachi. So you're taking 2 prizes, preferably every turn, as a Dragapult player. So your number of turns that you might be playing is about the same. And if you run Marnies or Stamps, then, game over for Blounds.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that people are still playing. And it's that thing too of like, if you don't respect it, like you lose.
Yeah.
Right.
In all my videos where I talk about like my recent videos, doing Darkness Ablaze stuff, I get all these comments about like, you need to cut these Pokemon and these Pokemon or whatever. And I'm like, look, these Pokemon are also in there because Decidueye is going to be a deck the same way that Hoopa was a deck, the same way that Goons is a deck, right? Except Decidueye does more damage because it spreads damage to the bench, and it has better protection because it's just an ability that you can't turn off, right? So if you don't respect that as a deck, and then somebody comes, rocks up to a tournament with Decidueye and doesn't brick, you auto lose. So, some people are telling me you take these Pokemon out. I think that Decidueye is going to be that next deck that I think people may not respect day 1, and it's going to take, a hard lesson in a tournament for some people to be like, oh shoot, yeah, I really should put some basics in there that aren't GXs or Vs to get around this.
I'm top cutting a regional with Decidueye. I'm telling you that right now. I'm piloting that deck to victory. But someone who piloted a deck to victory is here in the PokéX tournament, Stefan Ivanov. You've heard the name before, probably. Very, very good player. Piloted Dragapult VMAX. Played an interesting version that we don't see very often that runs not only off the Super Scoop Ups, which I tried earlier today. I flipped 6 coins, did not hit a single one. So I don't know how he does it. But also plays the 1/1 Malamar line, which I found very interesting and actually very good when I played Dragapult earlier today and tried out the list.
So I can tell you right now, Dragapult Malamar has been what I have been, repping for like the last 3 weeks in all my Players Cup stuff. And then the tournament that I competed in this weekend, I played Dragapult Malamar to success. And I've always been amazed that people prefer manual attachments and crushing hammers over a Malamar line. 1/1 or 2/2 doesn't matter. Because like I was able to win games by getting, one of my Dragapults get knocked out. I have nothing set up, but then I can just slap down a Dragapult, attach, accelerate an energy, and then hit for 140 from the bench. And it's like, whoa. That won me a game quite literally. So yeah, I prefer the Malamar line. I think it's just a backup.
No, yeah, I think it's pretty good as well. Again, I'll preface by I didn't play Dragapult too much before today, but I did play it some, just to kind of know a little bit of the matchups and like how the deck runs. But playing this just felt better than the other Dragapult decks that I've played because I had that like kind of safety net in Malamar. Super Scoop Up sucked, but
I was gonna say except when you don't hit the scoop ups and you're like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's in the wise words of JW Creewall earlier today. He said that it's an unfair card because you never hit heads. Or I'm sorry, wait, it's a fair card because you never hit heads. But it's an unfair card because your opponent always hits heads. Boom, drop mic. I only screwed it up once. It does feel like that. Didn't see anything like super surprising other than that from the PokéX tournament. Some of the controls played the Persian, which I don't know, is Persian just like better than Apom? Like neither of these control lists were playing that Apom that we got in the Battle League decks, which were legal, I believe. Pretty sure.
I'm not. This is one thing where I'm not sure. Genuinely,
I'm pretty sure that is the case. You can quote me on that, but I thought it was pretty surprising to see more Persian rather than Apom, because even though Persian takes one more card than Apom does, it is that stage 1, and I guess since you have that Ditto, maybe you don't get in that situation, but I don't know. Again, I didn't test it too much. I've been thinking about just making like YouTube videos as of right now and trying to get Arceus Palkia going for a tournament that I've got coming up. But
I think we can probably
thought it was really cool.
I think we can probably move on now to like the next tournament. The
exactly
Azul, the rat tournament, if you will. So,
this one was super interesting in my opinion.
I mean, especially the winner, because I'm like looking at the spread of decks, right, that were entered into the tournament. And for those of you, Azul, he ran his first, I think he does a monthly tournament that he's going to be doing where all of his Twitch subscribers can enter the tournament. But for me, like a couple of interesting things when I look at this spread is tons of Dragapult. And look, this is probably influenced by the fact that the PokéX Invitational was won by Dragapult. I think that there's definitely an element of like somebody does well with one deck and whatever the tournament the next day is going to play all those decks, because we are living in a meta right now where you can change your deck choice every day, right? If you're going to a big tournament or league cups, you're not going to change your deck based on what did well in another league cup somewhere else in the country. That's not going to happen. But yeah, do you want to talk about what won the tournament? Because I think that is the most interesting part.
So what won the tournament? was a deck that I make fun of a lot, and I'm sure a lot of other people also make fun of. It is Dark Box. It was a interesting Sylvali Weavile Dark Box list that also featured a 2/2 line of Alolan Persian GX, which is honestly just a big wall for a lot of what we got going on right now in the meta. Had different little things like a Vitality Band stuck in there. And 3 Cynthia and Caitlyn's, which I feel like is a lot, but it's honestly a decent draw control. Because in this deck specifically, you don't necessarily want to throw away a ton of things. You know, you have your tag call engine to go grab, you know, whatever you may need, like the Darkrai Umbreon, the Sableye T-Tar, Malolana, Red and Blue. Again, Cynthia and Caitlyn. Just very, very interesting. I don't know who the winner was. I don't know them by name.
Look, if I look at this deck though, it does a few things pretty well. Obviously, if you know you're going to be up against Pikachu and Zekrom, you could potentially bait out, because the main problem you would run into with Pikachu and Zekrom, in my opinion, is you're gonna run into the problem of Boltund, and you're gonna run into the problem of, I think, Zeraora, right? Because it prevents damage from the Alolan Persian. From
tag teams, Ultra Beast, and Special Energy.
Yes. So what you have to do is you have to bait out. And I think this deck really, in my opinion, only works when it's a surprise. Which it is.
Well,
it is right now. It was yesterday. It will not be a surprise anymore. But once you know that this deck is coming, you just play Boltund and you don't put any of your special energies onto the Boltund. You know what? Done. You easily take out the Alolan Persians. You don't give up extra prizes to T-Tar, and you make sure not to overbench for the Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. I think once you know that, Pikarom is an easy win, which I think Pikarom otherwise is a very favorable matchup for this deck. So it's funny. I just think that they're like all the little pieces in this rely on the idea that you don't know what's about to happen.
It's just like weird to me because like Dark Box, I've played it. I've played an iteration of this, which is almost the same except for like the 2/2 line and a Hoopa. It's basically the same thing that I've played before, and it just did not feel good. But I think it's still very interesting because you talk about, I mean, the Alolan Persian GX only does 240 when you hit Dragapult for a weakness. This probably did very, very well simply because there was a lot of Dragapult in there. And plus, like, you know, it essentially, you lose. It's an auto lose for Blacephalon, right? A deck that Azul has played on stream and in tournaments. So probably influenced a little bit, I would think. Considering there was 9 Baby Blounds. Combo Zacian.
Yeah, how does this beat Combo Zacian? That's my question. I don't see how it does.
Do you go in with the bigger Pokemon like the tag teams?
I mean, maybe I suppose you would have to
commit.
Right?
You commit with the tag teams because Zacian cannot one-shot them.
Oh, it just feels bad. I mean, let's look at the tournament real quick. How many combos?
Well, I mean, like
played?
There was 10. A lot. There was 10.
I feel like this dude dodged Combo Zacian. They had to.
There's no way that you dodge combo. There's no way that you dodge. I mean, I guess there statistically is a way. But when a deck takes control of like 12%, I can't do that math. I'm just like looking at this and I can't tell. Anyways, it's like 10 out of. Never mind. I can't do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, look, there was 10 of them. It was more than 10% of the field. 100%.
Do you know how many rounds this was?
I mean, I don't know. It probably, my gut would have said it was probably a top cut of 8 out of 5-6 rounds, maybe most. I'm just looking at the numbers, and it's probably not more than 5 or 6 rounds.
Which even a best of 3, like if you did a best of 3, you know, you talk about that surprise factor.
Yeah,
you know, game 1 is where it comes out, and then games 2 and 3, your opponent knows. So the fact that if there was, I don't know, because I sadly had to miss the stream because I was with family over the weekend, and Azul, because of like, I don't know if this is the reason, but deletes his VODs. I think mainly for the fact of music. I don't know that for sure. I'm not Azul. That would just be my guess. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I would love to rewatch the tournament structure, and I would love to be able to rewatch the stuff and see like how this did so well. That's my main thing. That's my main thing. Like how did this go so well? There has to be a recording somewhere.
I will say too, it's an unexpected deck, and sometimes you run hot, and that's how you end up winning a tournament, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, look, I think back to like late last year when Guardian won a tournament in England, and everyone's like, what? How did Guardian win a tournament? But it managed to dodge every single firebox. I think it played 1 or maybe 0 out of an entire regional. So sometimes you just get lucky. And you know what? You take that, I guess. I think the last thing we wanted to just chat about briefly, I don't think we need to really linger on the current meta results too much. But, you know, Charizard Lounge, another creator out there, was able to win the Sunday Open, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, shout out to you, Charizard Lounge.
Yeah, they played Tomb Beast, they played Baby Blounds, and they played Dark Box. I don't know if it was Azul's tournament on Saturday.
No, it was on Sunday.
Okay, so it may have been like a different Dark Box than what was played for Azul, but yeah, it is actually. I'm looking at the list now. It's like a Naganadal Dark Box list, but yeah, you know, shout out to him for that. I would say though, overall on like the current meta, I don't think there's that much to update. I think the Dark Box list that won is cool. Maybe you'll see it. Definitely will see more play just because it won a tournament from Azul. But outside of that, I don't really think the meta has changed much. What about you?
I don't think it really has either. I think it's interesting that we've moved to like, especially with Dragapult, I do see more people maybe putting in super scoop ups or more people trying to fit in that 1/1 Malamar line. You know, I can see that evolving. I think people are more respecting ADP Zacian now. You know, there's more people that are playing it. It's doing pretty well in my opinion. I'll stay on that hype train because I currently want it to be a hype train because I think I'm going to have to play it because I don't have a lot of other cards from Rebel Clash. But I do think that I do find it interesting that we're still finding ways to like change things up and, you know, finding these new decks that pop up, even when we're in this period of like, there's no IRL events. There's a lot of people mad about that. I think it's still great that we're still innovating. We're still finding the best things. And I think that's really cool. Shout outs to you for those of you that have been working on it. Deserve an award.
Yeah. The thanks for keeping the meta fresh award.
Thanks for making us not the only players in the world or people trying to talk about it. Cause we started this during quarantine.
Oh man.
We started this podcast during quarantine. Something exciting that happened. Japanese nationals. Very, very cool in my opinion. Japan still holding nationals. I think it was like their Players Cup essentially, because that same day, that same stream that they had it, they played the TCG, the VGC, and Pokken.
Yeah, I think they might have called it like their online championship, actually, the national championship.
Yeah, very similar to our Players Cup thing, except all in like one conglomeration and such, and all happening at the same time. But the results were interesting because there is the whatchamacallit, Darkness Ablaze, you know, our set that's going to be a part of that. You know, I forget the names of the Japanese subsets that are going to make up of that, but they've had those for a while. Those are all legal in Japan because they do have a little bit different of a format than the rest of the world does. We got to see a lot of those decks in action in some of those archetypes and some of those lists, which I thought was very, very cool. So, Sean, do you kind of want to recap the top 16 tournament with all the decks in there?
I mean, I won't talk about every deck because I think it's important to know that, you know, Japan is not playing in our format, or they won't be they're not playing in the format that we will be playing in when Darkness Ablaze comes out. They have a bunch of cards that are still legal that will not be legal for standard when we get them. Mm-hmm. That said,
it'll be legal for like 2 weeks, but no, like,
well,
Isn't there like a 2-week window where like, because I feel like I remember last year before Worlds, there was this window where it was like
There was
it was
2
like
weeks.
Sun and Moon to Unified Minds, and it was just a madhouse.
Well, online.
Playing on ladder.
Yeah,
ladder, playing on ladder.
Ladder, there's going to be 2 weeks of time where you can play whatever, and yeah. But in an actual
probably
tournament
hate everything
or anything like that, yeah, no, they won't be illegal for that.
An official like Pokemon sanctioned tournament.
And my guess is like there might be some people who run tournaments that are like, hey, you can play whatever, right? If it's available on PTCG, you can play it. But my guess is that some people are going to be like, okay, we are going to be running new rotation because that will feel very fresh to people. So that will probably be what we get in online tournaments too.
I think Neilpie said that they were going to do that for their open.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. But in terms of it, like if you actually look at the standings, there's a bunch of control, which is just filthy. You have, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4.
So you had
6.
a couple different iterations of Mills. So you had two players that were playing Cincino Control, which we're kind of aware of and we kind of know most. There is the Macargo Mill, the Sleepy Mill that came up in the third qualifier, I believe. I believe it was the third qualifier or something like that with the Mareep, Yeah. There is the Cryogonal Dustox. Awesome that made a top 16 appearance in this Japanese national tournament. And then there's Dragonite Oranguru. And you may be thinking like, Dragonite, what Dragonite is this? I'm pretty sure it's like Unified Minds, a baby Dragonite.
Accelerates energy from the deck.
No, I'm pretty sure it's from Team Up. It's a fast call Dragonite. Once during your turn,
that goes and gets you your supporter, right?
Yep, and goes and gets you a supporter from the deck, put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. You can combo that. I saw a list. You can combo that with Lysander. And I really thought it was interesting to see a variety of control decks, even though we probably won't be able to see them too much with Darkness Ablaze.
Yeah, I mean, what this tells me, though, is that the Japanese format is just not a format I would enjoy playing in, probably, because all of the mill and control in this, there's like a total, and the winners I would also call a control archetype as well. But like, so that puts you at 8 out of 16 were control or mill archetypes. Like, oh, gross. Mm-hmm. And then you have like Centiskorch and Eternatus in there, some Baby Blounds, like all of the things you would expect. I think the biggest surprise is the deck that won as well as placing second. So the top 2 decks in the tournament were both Vikavolt V.
The only 2 Vikavolts in the field, by the way.
And so if you don't know what Vikavolt does, what makes Vikavolt a good deck is its first attack, which is for a lightning and a colorless. You do 50 damage and your opponent can't play item cards during their turn. So it's an item lock based deck that does 50 damage, and you have a big old, Pokemon V at 210 or 220 HP, I believe. And the list has a bunch of cards that are going to rotate for us. Like it has Electro Powers, it has Thunder Mountain, which rotates, counter gains. So take this list with a grain of salt. It won't be the same list that we play. But that said, I think this item lock deck could still be very good in the same way that there is the Luxio deck, right? Add some toughness capes onto this guy, give him 270 HP, and just lock your opponent out of the game starting turn 2 with Cocoa Prism.
Big basics. I will say there are 3 Eternatus VMAX in the field, which is good. That's kind of what everybody's saying, and it kind of shoves it down my throat because I said Eternatus was going to be bad. Anyways, I swallow that. There was a Centiskorch in there. There was Luke Metal, Zacian, which has caught a little bit of steam here in outside of the rest of the world. And then some Blacephalons out here. I think there were 2 of them. Yeah, there's 2 of them. So people play Blacephalon over there as well. But yeah, Vikavolt, not a deck that I did not expect it, but it makes sense, right? Because like I feel like we're so dependent on items. Like whenever I get item locked, whether that's Cryogonal or I just blanked. There's another card that item locks me, but I can't remember which one it is. Yeah, or Luxio, like you mentioned earlier. You know, when I get item locked, it's very hard to do anything to get going on your board state. So very cool. Very cool. I hope that people are excited about it. I hope that people look into it once it's released, like over here. That's not the deck that I've seen people really talk about the most. Sean, do you want to know the deck that people what I've seen at least on my timeline talk about the most?
I mean, you can tell me. I mean, I think everyone's timeline is their own, but yes, please tell me the deck that you have heard people talk about.
A deck that did not make the top 16 has taken my Twitter timeline by storm. It is Phalanx Coco V. Phalanx Coco V with the turbo energy patch thing. I forget what it's called.
I think turbo patch is what the rough translation is.
Okay, turbo patch, twin energies, lightning energies. It's weird because like they're never attacking with the Phalanx V. They've got 4 Phalanx V in there. They're never attacking with it because they don't have any sort of sign that makes anything a fighting energy. So it just sits on the bench. They've got air balloons, so that's kind of they can use that as pivot if they need to. Things of that nature. But they've got the 4 baby Phalanx, so that's where like twin energy comes in. Then they got the Coco, you know, their main source of energy is the lightning energy, playing a couple of those and some capture energy. But people are just talking about this deck and they're so excited and they think that it's the great, like I didn't get to watch the tournament because like it was like 4 a.m. where I was, and I stay up late, but I don't stay up that late.
So can I build the deck for you? I haven't looked at it, but I can tell you what I think the deck is.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Go for it. I have the list right in front of me.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the deck list in front of me.
My guess is it plays 2 or 3 Tapu Koko Vs, not 4.
It plays 2.
That's what I was going to say. I think you put 2 in there. The reason you put 2 in there is it's free retreat, so it's a pivot Pokemon. Mm-hmm. And that way you can have a Tapu Koko V on the bench and all 4 Phalanx V, so you get the maximum protection on your baby Phalanx. Check. To your point, you don't need fighting energy on baby Phalanx. You just need twin energy. So you can run twin energy and lightning energy and never attack with the big Phalanx. You're hitting Eternatus VMAX for weakness. So that's why you're playing the baby Phalanx. Now, the reason that Coco is good is because of 1, the pivot, and 2, E-Power hasn't rotated. I'm sure they play a 4 of E-Power, right?
You would be wrong.
They don't play any E-Powers?
A single E-Power. Not a single E-Power in this list.
Why?
Your guess is as good as mine.
So then,
I mean, what's the math? Would be that they. What's the math on 200? Like what in the format does well with 200? I mean, I get the lightning because they've got.
I mean, you throw 1 E-Power down and you can knock out a Zacian. I don't.
Thunder Mountain. I forgot to put TCG. Thunder Mountain TCG. Does that just say lightning Pokemon? Yeah. Attacks of lightning Pokemon cost 1 less. So Thunder Mountain doesn't really work with this. Do you want to guess any other stadiums that they have in here?
This probably plays. Does this play Piers if you're going to go get your twin energies, or Guzma and Hala? Probably Guzma and Hala. I think the Japanese love a Guzma Hala.
Neither. It was a trick question. There are no other stadiums.
Okay, I was going to say you don't need stadiums. So my thought, though, honestly, like, look, just because somebody made a list in Japan doesn't mean it's the best list. I'm going to throw this out there, some salt out there. I think if you're not playing E-Powers, are they playing electric energy in this or no?
They play 6. I don't think it's made for. So I have a feeling that the Tapu Koko is for like last resort finishing moves. I don't think it's actually used for attacking.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's that pivot like you talked about, but I don't think people really. I think they only attack really with Phalanx baby, which is weird.
Right. I think you're right, but that to me then it's weird that they don't have any E-Powers. I mean, unless this deck is running 4 research and like, is it running 4 research and maybe you just figure you're going to toss all your E-powers away anyways?
It's 4 research,
Okay.
4 Cynthia, 2 Birdkeeper, Tobies, or whatever that person's name is.
Yep.
I like the Birdkeeper card though.
Me too.
2 Marnies, 3 Bosses.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I think that
they also play 4 Pokemon catchers, so there's a lot of gusting in this deck.
That I don't really understand. I don't know why you need 3 or 4 Pokemon catchers and 3 bosses orders, but
I guess like the Pokemon catchers, because like Eldegoss is kind of out of the question, right? Because you need as many Phalanx as possible, and you probably got a pivot Pokemon, and you got Tapu Koko at least for a little bit. There's a one of Dedenne, so that's like your grindy Pokemon, right? That's a pretty full bench in my opinion. Like you're gonna have a full bench the entire game.
I mean, I'm gonna put this out there. There's a reason this deck didn't make top 16. I don't care what your Twitter timeline is doing. If you got a Tapu Koko, which is easily KO'd for 2 prizes, okay. You have a Phalanx V, which as beefy as you might like to think it is, an Eternatus VMAX or a Centiskorch doesn't care. So that's 2 more prizes. You know what I mean? Like if you are not weak to fighting, the fact that it's a fighting Pokemon is, I think, the only thing going for it in a meta that has Eternatus. That's just my 2 cents. That doesn't mean it's bad. But I don't think that it is. I don't know, man. I'm not standing it.
There's a lot of people that I think it's going to be like the dark box of next format, where it's like people just are going to try and they're going to try and they're going to try and they're going to try to make it work.
I think it's a good deck to play on ladder the week that the set comes out, because everybody's going to try to go build Eternatus.
Oh, everybody and their mother is going to play Eternatus. Oh, yeah. I guarantee it. I'm going to play Eternatus. Up there
with some Phalanx action, and you're like, okay, 1 Twin Energy on a basic Pokemon, I knock you out. And then
I'm bringing back Hitmon on the ladder with the new fighting energy that says your Pokemon take 20 less damage, even though... We'll get that in September. Hitmonlee is like 110 or whatever. Hitmonchan is like 110 health then, and it's like, that's nothing.
Yeah, I'm like, but I think that new fighting energy is going to be on Stonejourner VMAX, or, you know.
That's actually pretty sick. I just thought of that.
Yeah, so nobody's been thinking about Stonejourner VMAX since it came out, but ADP Stonejourner VMAX is a thing. Have you ever seen that?
I have seen that. I saw that one time in like one deck list result. But
a friend of mine was before COVID was going out and top cutting a bunch of cups with it for a few weeks.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So I think ADP Stonejourner VMAX with that new fighting energy, when that comes out in September or whenever, that'll be a deck again. So just keep that in mind.
Interesting. Well, Sean, would you like to move to our next topic?
Yes. I would like to move to it. The next topic is going to be, we now have a mostly official results for the Players' Cup.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot the Players' Cup was still a thing.
I mean, yeah, Jake, I know you didn't participate for a variety of very valid reasons, but I did. I did participate. Now, I did not grind the way that I thought, one was going to have to grind in order to actually qualify. So for everybody out there, I had a decent amount of tickets, but I did not have an absurd amount. I had like 200 and some odd tickets, which I think
that's a lot. Personally,
I would say it's a decent amount. I say though that like probably about 50 to 80% of my friend group has 400 or more tickets, because they're just people who've been playing for more than a year and don't do the tournaments right? So, I would like to argue that I think a majority of people that are competitive in the TCG, like when the new set came out, Rebel Clash came out, I feel like a majority of people spent their tickets. I need to get these packs. I got to get my Dragapults. I got to do all these things, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many people. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if more people than usual did it, because you wanted to get packs and the packs for Rebel Clash were so expensive. Mm-hmm. I don't think though that like it was that crazy different. But who knows? We literally have zero data for that one way or another. All we have is the anecdotals.
We do have though the data. Sean did some quick math, and I would trust Sean's math more than my own. About how many. Okay, so we took an assumption. Okay, we discussed an assumption. We were like, okay, what do you think the average person gets per tournament in terms of point wise? For those of you that don't know, maybe you didn't participate or you didn't really know how it works. You just did as many as you can and just kept checking the number that you had. You got 1 point for 8th place, which was dead last, which means you entered, you got a point. 7th place, 2 points. 6th place, 3 points. I toss up. I said, I think the average person gets 5th. So they get like 4 points. You know, either you win the whole thing or you get donked, right? 5th place means that out of all the people who lost in the first round, you were the best loser, you know? So I felt like 5th was a good number. I think you would agree. And so like in North America, Sean said in North America, if you had that average, you had to have about 160 tickets in order to qualify for top 256, right?
Yes. So I'll let everybody know the points numbers and then we can break them down. So
yeah,
North America,
that's probably better.
Yeah. North America top 256 was 81 points or more. Europe top 256 was 39 points. Latin America top 256 was 33. And then Oceania top 128, because they didn't do top 256 there, was 8 points. Literally, just if you enter one tournament and win, you are in the Players' Cup if you live in Oceania. Now, that's basically just Australia and New Zealand. Pour one out for Cashman and all the other folks that live in Asia, but were not included in that. I think, yeah. So if you break all the numbers down and you say, I looked at my own average, right? I would call myself I think it's safe to say I am an above average player. Certainly not a great player, but I'm certainly, I know what I'm doing roughly.
You play and make content. I would say that you're above average.
I would hope that I'm an above average player at this point. Oh, please.
I would consider me above average, and I call myself atrocious gameplay.
So I'm an above average player. I entered 26 tournaments. I ended with 128 points, which means that my average point total was 4.9. So to Jake's point, right? Like most of the tournaments that I entered, I either lost first round or I ended up getting first or second, usually first. Mm-hmm. So like there was not much in between. And yeah, that basically made my average slightly higher than 4. So I could see the majority of people, if they ended up with an average of 4 points, meaning they enter and they lose, and then sometimes they win, that will obviously average out to about 4 points. That's probably fair. So in North America, in order to get to 81 points, you would have to have 160 tickets on average. I don't know how many tickets you have, Jake. I know that I still have, I started out with 280 tickets or something like that. And between playing in the tournaments, which you win tickets sometimes when you play in tournaments randomly, earning tournaments via the ladder, etc. I ended up spending 200 tickets, but I still have 130 left. So in total, I earned, without even trying, 50 or 60 tickets right there. So someone could easily have played starting out with 80 to 100 tickets and made the event. And that's for North America, right? Which I would say North America is by far the most competitive region. It's almost unfair for North American players in this structure. And I'll go into that in a second numbers wise. But I would say that having 80 to 100 tickets, I don't know what the average is. They don't have that data available. But my guess would say 80 to 100 tickets is not an absurd amount of tickets for somebody to have at the beginning of June. What do you think about that, Jake?
I'm so mad because I forgot to save the tweet. But there are anecdotes I saw on my timeline of people who said they didn't have any tickets in the beginning. They said they grinded throughout the month, got about 88 tickets throughout the entire month, and they qualified for the Players' Cup. I think that these numbers are actually pretty low. The number of tournament rep needed to qualify, the amount of points that were needed. I feel like it's actually super low. the amount of tickets that we're assuming that you need, like, this is way lower than what I would have anticipated. So I really would love the information. I'm sure they'll never release this to us, of like how many people logged on in the month.
I can tell you.
How many people logged on in the month?
I can tell you how many people played in at least one tournament, roughly.
Okay. That works.
Globally. I cannot break it down by region, unfortunately. And the information, so I got this information maybe about a week ago. Currently, the tournament leaderboard site redirects you to the Pokemon forums right now. You cannot log in and actually look at it, unfortunately. But
okay, weird, champ.
It's super weird. I don't know why they did that. But, a week ago when I looked at it, there was about 10,000 people who had at least 1 point of tournament rep. And 1 point of tournament rep means that you played in a tournament and got dead last in one tournament. So that means that, as of maybe 4 or 5 days prior to the end of the tournament, about 10,000 people played, which, this is something that I was actually telling people before. When I first talked about the Players' Cup in my video, I was like, look, the one things we don't know are how many people are going to play in this tournament and how many points people are actually going to need to qualify. Because my gut was telling me that the numbers you're going to need to qualify was going to be a lot lower than what people were expecting, because they expected people to just go crazy and grind and, well, look at all these people that have 1,000 tickets. It's so unfair. And don't get me wrong. The structure of the tournament is by nature unfair, but that doesn't mean that it in practice will become unfair. Meaning, sure, some people might have 1,000 tickets, but if only 100 people have 1,000 tickets and there's another 796 open spots, well, that means that, you won't be able to beat those 100, but you might very well be able to beat, the other 8,000 people for whom you have the same number of tickets roughly. So for me, that was kind of I thought it was a bit overblown. I do wish they had a different structure to begin with.
Yeah, because I still find that unfair. Yeah,
I mean, look, don't get me wrong. It is an unfair system to start with, but in practice, I think what actually came out was that there will naturally have been some players, especially in North America, who still didn't have enough tickets, and they tried and they grinded and they just came short. But for the most part, I think if you were willing to grind, even if you had almost no tickets, you probably could have made it in if you are a good enough player, and lucky enough to win the majority of your tournaments rather than break even.
I'm curious as well on if the distribution of tickets changed. So when you talk about the chests specifically, when you complete the ladder and stuff and you get all these chests, I'm curious to know how many of them gave what was the average for tickets? How many chests gave out tickets in comparison to before the Players' Cup to during the month of the Players' Cup? And if there was an increase. I don't know if there's anybody who goes out and data mines the Pokemon TCG online. Shout outs to you if you do, because I don't think a lot of people would actually care. But if someone did data mine the game and to know of what those numbers looked like, I would be very curious, because I think it would be stupid, the people who make this game and the people who decide what happens and what doesn't happen, if they didn't increase the output of tickets given to a player.
My gut would tell me that the chest rewards also didn't change then, because
I would think they didn't either.
Because look, the Occam's razor explanation is nothing changed, right? The Pokemon did nothing to any of the reward rates in any form. And then, that's the number of tickets that you can acquire in any given month is between 80 and 100 maybe. And maybe more, I don't know. But generally speaking, I think that's a good assumption. I don't know. This is a bit of my soapbox. I think that while it's fair to criticize Pokemon for the way that it was structured, because it probably should have been structured differently, I think the initial jumping to conclusions that, the whole event would be so unfavorable for anyone who didn't have 1,000 tickets or some absurd number of tickets I don't think that was necessarily borne out in the data. Now, you could say that people played less in terms of tournaments because they didn't like the event. I know, Jake, you didn't play. Azul didn't play. That may have played a factor. It probably did play a factor to some degree, but to what degree, it's hard to say.
I would say Azul played a factor. I did not probably play a factor into that. I don't know if you noticed, but he's a lot bigger than I am.
Well, but you personally didn't play, right? So that is a certain number of points that did not have to be put into the total pool to compete against. That said, though, like what I'll also say about it, though, is the only, I think, not the only, but the main group that I think still would have cause to be upset about the structure is still the North American audience. Because, I know there's a lot of players in North America, and yes, Pokemon needs to continue to support the communities in all regions, which is perfectly makes sense, right? It makes sense. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the points totals, 424 players in North America are within the top 896 globally, which is the number of players who will go on to the next round. So basically half of the world, if this was purely based on points, would have been from North America. So I understand why they made the structure, but like the fact that in Europe you could get 39 points, or in Latin America 33, or in Oceania, like Australia and New Zealand, there's fewer players, don't get me wrong, but 8 points, all you needed was 8 points to be in the 128 people from your region. Like, boy, howdy, I would be salty if I was an American who did try a little bit. I have a friend, actually, Chibi, who has 80 points, and he may not make it. I don't know in terms of like if everyone on that leaderboard is definitely a Masters Division player or whatever, but he has 80 points. So like that would feel pretty salty if you have 80 points and like, there's about 400 other players who are going to get in from other regions.
I just hate the Players Cup. I've talked about it before. It's cool that they're doing something, but it could be better. Better.
I agree.
Wish it was.
It could be better, but this is my opinion. I think for what it's worth, it is a good starting point. And I have to say, I think the data bears out the fact that qualifying was probably not as difficult as everyone was expecting. You didn't need to be a tickets millionaire to qualify necessarily.
No, I 100% agree. I think I do agree with that. How like we didn't actually need as many tickets as I originally thought, or the bots. They got all the bots, right? They got all the bots.
And I will say one benefit of all this is that, if Pokemon decides to do something like this again, and if you think about it, if they do the same structure, then tournament rep, if people spent the majority of their tickets on this, like some people have 700 plus points in tournament rep, that means they probably spent a lot of their tickets to get there.
Yeah, I would think that they probably spent just about all of them.
It's 700 plus points. If you're getting the average, that's 2,800 tickets or something like that. Or no, what is that? 4 points, 700 points. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot of tickets.
2,800?
I don't know. I did the math wrong. But it probably like 1,600 to 2,000 tickets, actually.
Yeah.
But like,
well, I don't know.
Hopefully what that does is, and this is something I also said in my video, it might be a way for them to reset all of these people's tickets. So if you think about an in-game economy, right? What game designers and developers actually do is they introduce items that force people to spend absurd amounts of whatever the in-game money is in order to reset the economic balance. And so this could have been like just the only way that you can get people to do that right now, to reset that balance. If they want to use this system in the future, is to say, well, let's do a tournament. Hopefully the people with a lot of tickets just go all out, spend it all. And then the next tournament rolls around, everyone will start at a relatively level playing field.
Still hate it.
I think that's going to do it for us today.
I have a surprise soapbox that I saw on Twitter while looking for tweets.
Okay.
It's not very long. It's not that fast. It's just more of an informative thing about the game and its like mechanics. Anyways, there's a video that I'm seeing right now on Twitter. It's a person who is playing a game of Pokemon TCG, and I actually saw this same instance happen at a local event. It was me and my buddy playing, Player A has 0 cards in their hand. Player B has 1 card in their hand, and that card is Marnie. You are not allowed to play Marnie because Marnie specifically says if either player puts any cards at the bottom of their deck, then you draw the cards. So because you would play Marnie, and so both player A and player B have 0 cards in their hand, you don't actually get to do the action because neither player actually shuffles a hand and puts it at the bottom of their deck. So theoretically, you cannot play Marnie. It's not a bug. It's not a glitch. That's just how the card actually interacts.
Yo,
am I correct in that?
That is wild. I did not know that.
Because it says each player shuffles their hand and puts it at the bottom of their deck. If either player puts any cards at the bottom, which neither player would, because neither player has a hand, you draw 5 cards and your opponent draws 4. If there was an interaction to this, if there was an actual interaction, it would just be like Guzma into Rabambi and expanded, where you would just play the card and literally nothing happens. Like that would be the only interaction that would happen.
Yo, that blew my mind. The funny thing is, I guess it so rarely happens that like it
very rarely happens. Like there's almost no scenarios right now in the Pokemon TCG where people have 0 card hands. Mm-hmm. Unless they're like doing combos to get a 0 card hand for like a researcher or a Marnie. But the clause specifically says if either player. So if no player has cards in their hand after the card has been played, you can't do it. So theoretically, you can't play the card. So I just wanted to say that because I've been staring at this tweet for the last half hour.
Well, here's the thing. I think you could play the card. It would just have no effect, right?
Yeah. So like PTCGO is not letting you play said card.
Oh,
which you shouldn't play said card anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, PTCGO is protecting you from yourself, basically.
Yes. It's just read the cards. I have trouble with this sometimes where I just like don't read the cards. There's nobody in the comments that have said anything. I'm not going to say the specific player because like Sean says, like blew my mind. I actually didn't know that. Like I think there's probably a lot of people who don't know this. But it's something that I found out very recently, and I feel like a lot of people don't know either. So just a heads up. It's not a bug. Tell your friends that you see on social media or try to do that. Just let them know, hey, it's not how this interaction works.
Wow. Well, that's super cool, actually. Like I learned something there. That's pretty cool.
It's my mini soapbox because I actually don't have like a serious topic to talk about. Unless we really want to talk about some stuff. Donald Trump got banned on Twitch. I thought that was interesting. I have no political opinions. I just found it interesting.
Oh man. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for today's podcast. Thank you so much again for joining me, Jake.
Thank you for joining me, sir.
No, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I got to figure out, Sean, what am I going to have for dinner tonight?
I don't know. Well, you figure that out on your own. All right, folks, we're gonna see you in another episode. I have a hot dog or a corn dog. I don't know. Corn dogs are weird.
Hot dog I haven't had a corn dog in like 10 years.
Well, go to a fair and get a corn dog, but socially distance.
Fun fact, my favorite sporting event of all time is Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I haven't missed one in several years, and I'm very curious if they're going to do it this year and how. Anyways, I will stop.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching or listening, I should say. And geez. And yeah, if you like this, definitely subscribe on whatever listening platform you are on. Let your friends know that this is a cool pod, I guess. And thank you to everybody who's been sending us such lovely messages. I know Jake and I have both received such wonderful DMs and things randomly here and there. So
leave a review. Leave a review on the podcast. That's a great way for people to, for new people that maybe see it and say like, oh, maybe this is something I want to watch. Let's look at the reviews.
Yeah.
Leave a 5-star review.
Thank you for that. If you leave a review. But yeah, that'll do it. And we will catch you in another episode of Metapod.
5 stars. Podcast is great. Jake's rants, 2 out of 10.